are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Marriage Adventure Podcast. We're your hosts, Daniel and Bonnie Hoover, and our passion and our mission is to help, I almost flubbed that one up, is to help connect couples to Christ and to each other.
Yes.
And so why that was so funny, why I almost flubbed that up, is that was our fourth time retaking that intro, and we almost made it our fifth, but no, we're pressing through.
Yes. Well, I'm the one that flubbed it up, and I said, "You just do it."
And I just did it, and I almost flubbed it up. But we want to welcome you to today's podcast, and we have a really, really important topic today.
Yes. Here's the question we want to kick off with today's episode. Why is it that we show more grace to strangers, coworkers, and even our pets than we do to our own spouse?
Oh, come on, man. You're getting personal.
I know.
It's so true. Yes. It's so easy to forgive everyone else or be gracious with everyone else except the person we share a bed and an underwear drawer with, right?
Right.
I mean, the person that we stood in front of our grandma and our mama and everybody and said, "Hey, I'm forsaking all of y'all, and I'm clinging to, words are hard today, clinging to this person." It's the hardest person to show grace towards.
I know.
Thank you in showing me grace, as I almost messed up.
Well, you showed me like 3 times and like re-recorded. So, but in today's episode, we're diving into how God's grace, when lived out daily in your relationship, can completely transform your marriage.
That's right. That's right. So typically in the podcast, we dive in deeper into my weekly marriage coaching, and this is a topic I talked about in this week's marriage coaching. And so I shared a story about when I was a teenager, and my parents, started driving. I was 16, so my parents got me my own checking account, which is kind of antiquated today, right? Not many people use a checkbook anymore.
Well, okay, yes, that's true. But see, I keep a check register, and even when I use my debit card, I write stuff down, and you should see the looks and even comments I get from people, like the cashiers. They're like, "What are you doing?
Like, what are you writing on?
What are you writing on? What is that?" I have showed more people what a check register looks like, and they're like, "Oh."
So if you don't know what that is, it's just a little flip book that used to, when you would write a check, you would record that check in this little ledger.
Yeah.
And then you would deduct that amount from the account. And so you kind of had a running total of what you had in your checking account. Well, nowadays, instead of writing checks, people have a debit card. And the debit card doesn't come with a ledger. So you don't know how much you have in that account at any one time.
Well, you can look online and kind of see. But if you've set up bill pay and stuff, it hadn't come out yet. So
yeah, that's true. So and that really has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But so when I was a teenager, my parents set up my checking account for me. And I was terrible at that whole ledger, reconciling the checkbook and all that kind of stuff. And so they were smart because they knew me. And they set up overdraft protection for me. So what that was if I ever wrote a check that I didn't have that amount in my checking account to cover it because I didn't know, because I didn't keep up with my ledger, then the bank would automatically pull money out of my savings to cover it.
So smart.
And then that $5 sandwich costed me $35 because there's a fee that comes every time they do that. And but that's a great example of what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about grace and having grace in your marriage. And just like money in the bank, you make deposits in the bank, you make deposits in your marriage in little ways all throughout the day, right? Love and words and actions and deeds and all of that make deposits in our bank account, in our marital bank account.
Yep.
And but then these arguments or selfishness or you name it, makes withdrawals. Life makes withdrawals. Yeah. And so what is the overdraft protection in our marriage? It's called grace.
Yes.
Grace is the thing that says, you know what? I'm not going to let that bounce, or I'm going to choose to forgive. I'm going to choose to let you be human today and not hold that against you.
I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, me too.
So, but what happens when your marriage runs out of grace?
That's a good question. Why don't we talk about that here in a second?
If you and your spouse are longing to grow deeper in your relationship with the Lord and each other, try one of our at-home signature courses. These step-by-step courses will help you to reset, realign, and rekindle your marriage with Christ at the center. You'll get clear teaching, practical exercises, downloadable couples guides, and tools you can use this week, plus options to learn at your pace or together over a weekend. You can enroll in a course that fits you. Simply go to themarriageadventure.com/courses.
All right, so we asked the question, what happens when your marriage runs out of grace, when you're not showing grace to your spouse, when you're not willing to have that overdraft protection on your relationship? I typically find with couples that I work with, and even in our marriage, love isn't the problem. We've never questioned our love for each other.
No.
Most every couple that comes in and sit here, they don't fall out of love for the other person,
Yeah. Or they're still choosing love.
They're still choosing love.
Yeah.
It's just a lack of grace,
I love what you said in your coaching. You said that love builds it, but grace keeps the marriage from collapsing. Thought that was great. It keeps it from falling apart. I mean, we love each other enough, but if love can only take me so far, and then I reach that point, I just can't. If I don't have enough grace on you, then I'll be done.
Well, and that's Christ's example is always the best example, and so you look at Christ's example for us, right? God the Father loved us so much that He sent His Son, right? And so Jesus goes to the cross to us to exhibit grace and mercy
that we did not
we didn't deserve at all.
Yeah.
And so and He calls us to do the same thing in our marriage. So love without grace, what begins to happen there? What does that turn into?
Well, it creates distance. If we don't have the grace for the other person, and we feel wounded enough time after time, and we stop extending grace for those wounds, we start pulling back. And sometimes it's a self-protect mode. It's a thing I want to protect my heart because I feel like, okay, well, it's been wounded there, and it creates this distance. And sometimes if you're not showing grace, it starts turning into, well, you've messed up enough in this area. Now I'm gonna start keeping score.
I did this, you didn't do this, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And scorekeeping is never good in marriage. Never good.
And it's not a fruit of the Spirit either.
No.
Love,
joy, peace, patience,
right.
Scorekeeping. No, that's
exactly. And love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and sometimes it's that bearing all things that we show love.
So speaking of bears, in Colossians 3:13, it says, "Bear with each other and forgive one another." So right there, that says you're going to have grievances. You're going to mess up. You're going to be human. You're going to be a jerk sometimes. You're going to be selfish sometimes. You're just going to be annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
But the author there, the writer there says, bear with each other. My grandma would have said, put up with each other. You got to forgive one another. If any of you, not if, when any of you has a grievance towards someone, forgive them how? As the Lord forgave you.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. That's a big ask, but we're called as believers to be obedient in that. So, Bonnie, what does it look like to bear with or put up with your spouse through different seasons?
I have that thought of, what, I can handle this for a bit. Let me first say, before we get too far into this, that we're not talking about a habitual sin that's hurting hurting your spouse. Your spouse is doing something that's hurting them, or habitually hurting you,
or abuse.
We're not talking about that kind of putting up with. That there's some things like that you should not have to you don't put up with.
And the key word there is habitual, because
right.
I've seen an affair happen or something really egregious happen, and then the person that did it was repentant.
Yes.
And they had a heart that was broken, and they had a contrite spirit. And we are called in those situations to have grace,
right,
and forgiveness.
Yeah.
So.
But what I'm saying is, if there's abuse involved or something like that, and it's like you don't have to continually put up with that. But putting up with each other, it's like, man, I'm a flawed human being, and I know there are things that I do that just is going to grate on you over time, and things that I unintentionally do to hurt you. Or it's the things that you don't mean to do, and you don't even know sometimes you're doing.
Yeah.
But I can put up with that for a season, and there are times that we have to come to each other and call each other out on it in love, and say, hey, this has gone on for a little bit. What's going on here? But there's grace even in that, in the way you approach the person. It's like I can help put up with some stuff for a while because Christ put up with so much for me. I mean, he has forgiven me so much. So I'm going to have grace on you because he had grace on me. Not even necessarily because you deserve it or because I deserve it.
Yeah. Well, let's discuss why can't a marriage survive without grace, right? And it's amazing how marriage exposes our things about us. And one of the big things marriage exposes is our selfishness.
Boy, howdy does it ever.
And if you don't think that's true, then God gives you kids.
Oh, no kidding.
Right.
Well, and I've heard people say that, that God does allow us to have a marriage relationship to help refine us too, to make us more like him. Because, before you got married, you just do whatever you want. Well, I mean, unless you're living under your parents' roof, and then you do whatever they want. But when you're out on your own and before you get married and you're making a decision for one person. So it's fine if I choose to leave my clothes everywhere. It's fine if I choose to, eat unhealthy every day of the week. And if, who cares?
Happy is your only goal then.
Right. But when I'm married to someone else and my decisions affect you, then there's some accountability in that.
Yeah.
And God uses that to help shape us because now it's not all about me.
That's right.
And that's part of the Christ life, is learning to die to self.
Yep.
And you have to learn to die to self when you're in a relationship with somebody else.
Absolutely. Another thing that is exposed in marriage, or that we have to have grace for, is that over time we change, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
The old saying is every 10 years you're a different person. And so if we kind of said this before in the podcast, if you don't like who your spouse is now, just wait, because they'll be a different person in another 10 years.
That's right. But you will too.
That's exactly right. So what happens is people jump from marriage to marriage to marriage, and the people they married are going to change.
Yes.
And they change. And so it's better just to let's make this work, right? Let's learn grace and understanding in this marriage, and surrender to the Lord in this marriage. But if we expect, and I think I said this in the coaching video too, if I expect you to always remain the same person and the person that I demand or want you to be, then we're really in for a long road.
Yeah, because if you always expect me to respond in a certain way, you're changing. But if I don't have the opportunity to change alongside you, sometimes without grace, the ways that I change is going to feel like rejection to you.
Yeah.
You're going to feel like maybe, okay, because now I have a new point of view on something. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. And you're like, wait, what? You've always wanted to eat at Mexican every time I wanted to eat at Mexican.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, wait, I don't want to do that anymore. You're like, oh, you're rejecting me because I like Mexican food. So.
And more specifically with us, and just a personal example, is our marriage. When we started out, we were both called to ministry. And for the majority of our marriage, we were called to the same ministry.
Yes.
Ministering side by side. And then kids come along. Right. And this happens in most every family. Kids come along. And so ministry, attention, passions divide.
Yeah.
And so, so our ministry began to divide then, right? You still did ministry with me at the church or whatever we were doing, but your ministry was the day-to-day responsibility of the kids. Not that they weren't my ministry too. But even more so now, as the kids are teenagers and they have their own lives, and we're kind of on the last few years of this, God has really called you and your heart to focus in even more, because they're dealing with adult problems and connecting in adult ways, and you're helping them navigate that. And so you've even had to pull back from the marriage adventure even more, to be able to see that through to completion and be obedient in that season of ministry. And so even ministry things change over time. And we've had to navigate that.
It's been hard.
And it creates a lot of need for grace in that and understanding. You said that if we don't have grace, that as we change, that it'll feel rejection to the other spouse. But I think it feels rejection to you too. If I don't allow you to change, and then it feels like rejection to you, that I'm not allowing
like
you
who I'm becoming.
Right, exactly. Or what God's leading you into, right?
Right.
Dr. Tim Kimmel wrote a lot about this. He wrote a great book on grace in your marriage, and he said your marriage will have a tough time making it without grace. And man, that's so true.
Well, and Scripture speaks to that too. It exhorts us to, from Ephesians 4:32, it says, "Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you." There's that phrase again, as He forgave you.
Yeah.
And that we do have to handle each other. I think part of this is realizing we have to handle each other in a way that is open-handed, because I can tend to think you're mine. And that I want, if I purchase something from a store and I have a certain purpose for that, and I bring it home, I use it the way it's intended, and I want to use it a certain way because I own that thing, and I want it to bend to my will because I purchased it. A spouse is not that way.
No.
You are not my own. You belong to the Lord, and I can't handle you, and I can't bend you and make you do things always the way I want you to operate, and
Right.
it's not fair. And so we have to have that kind of grace on each other, recognizing I'm not truly yours. Yes, there's a loyalty here, there's a covenant relationship, but we belong to the Lord, and we ultimately answer to Him. And so we have got to recognize the fact that you are a child of God. I have to recognize that, and I have to treat you as such, and I have to forgive you as He has forgiven you. I have to forgive you as God's forgiven me. And that viewpoint of view is on you is like, I don't own you.
No.
You know?
Dr. Kimmel also wrote this. Ironically, the relationship in our life that most needs to be saturated in grace is the one in which grace is the least experienced. He goes on to say that we often show more grace to our coworkers, our friends, our pets, than to the person we agreed to share an underwear drawer and a bathroom mirror with and a credit card with. It's a contradiction. Man, this is powerful. It's a contradiction for a Christian to gladly receive grace from God, but refuse to offer it to their spouse.
That's one of the
That's a
hardest
mic
hitting
drop
Yeah.
comment right there. And it is convicting.
Wow.
Let me read that again. It's a contradiction for a Christian to gladly receive grace from God, but refuse to offer it to their spouse. Why do you think, we opened with this comment too, why do you think it's easier to give grace to everyone else than to this one person that we've made a covenant with?
Well, because I do think over time we start taking each other for granted. We do take for granted this is a covenant relationship. You're just going to be here. And so I may not be as tender with your heart as I might be someone else's that am not assured they're planning to stay around. In a job, I can lose my job if I don't treat people the right way. And in friendships, it's like, well, if I lose that friendship, well, I'll just make another friend. But this is one relationship that we just assume the other person's always going to put up with us, always going to be there. And we should, out of covenant, but that doesn't mean it's easy or that it's right to be able to treat each other that way. And it's not, because we should be able to, you should be the person I care the most about your heart, because you and I are one flesh. And so when your heart's hurt, my heart should be grieved as well.
Yeah.
And so, we just take each other for granted, I think.
Yeah. It reminds me of that old Andy Griffith episode where the couple they were fighting so bad, but out in public they were so nice and gracious to everybody else.
Yeah.
And so then Andy, as the sheriff and the judge and just the local, he goes over to their house and he teaches them how to communicate nicely. Well, yes, dear, and okay, honey.
Okay, honey.
So they start communicating really nice in the house. but then they're turds to everybody out
They're
in
so
public.
mean,
They're so
yes.
mean to everybody in public, and everybody in public's like,
I liked it better
I
when they were
liked it
fighting.
better when they were fighting at home.
Yeah.
But that is so true, and it's so sad that we do that. So in reality, this isn't a marriage issue. This is a discipleship issue. This is a spiritual issue, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and I think you're right in that we can disciple. We can be discipled to understand the grace that we've received. And that makes us in turn grateful for that and then be willing to extend it because of what we've been given. If we could truly understand the grace that was shown us, and if we could truly see our own hearts and what Jesus died for, and I mean, I think we judge other people on their actions and then want for them to judge us on our intentions.
Right.
But at the core of it, Christ has seen our hearts and our intentions and all the things and all the actions and loved us enough to die for us anyway. But we just want to lash out at you. I want to lash out at you because you stepped on my flesh and you made me inconvenienced.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about what grace really is, right? And what it's not.
Okay.
So grace is desiring in a marriage relationship. It's desiring the best for your spouse even when they don't deserve it.
And that's hard because we share a space. And sometimes the things that offend me, the things that I'm not showing you grace for is because it's inconvenienced me or offended me because we do share a space. But it's truly wanting you to be your best you, and me loving you enough to give you the grace to get to that point. Yeah. So some things, maybe one thing that grace is not being a doormat or just ignoring a problem. We don't want to just say, let's just sweep everything under the rug. Yeah. There's some things that we do need to address, and there's some things that, there needs to be a conversation here.
Yeah, I had a couple not too long ago. He was pretty staunch in his opinion. Didn't want to change. He wasn't self-aware in this situation. He was really sticking to his guns, and so she was like, "What do I do? You know, how do I handle that? Am I just supposed to kind of let him have his way and do his thing?" And I told her, I said, no. I said, you still have a voice. You're still an image bearer of God, right? You still have value. You still have worth. You still have an opinion. You're not supposed to be a doormat, you know. And so grace isn't ignoring things.
Yeah. It's
just choosing to treat them with the love of God, and it's choosing to desire the best for them. But you can still stand up for what you believe and have a voice, have an opinion in that.
Well, and grace is, I mean, if I truly want the best for you, there's some times that I will in love need to confront something because it's not God's best for you. And that's hard if you don't like conflict, but
yeah. So I think it'll help for us to give some examples of maybe what grace looks like. I think it's very gracious to respond with patience.
Yeah. Giving somebody the space, giving them a little bit of time to sort through something.
Allowing your spouse to have a bad day.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we have to do that with our kids. Right. Sometimes it's, for us, I might give you more grace to have a bad day than I will the kids.
Yeah.
I'll get on to that. You need to clear up that attitude. You need blah, blah, blah.
Same.
But, you know, allowing them to have a bad day, not cross the line in disrespect, but, you know.
Well, and I think another thing is creating a safe place to fail. That I can be at my worst, and that you see all my flaws, and that I'm safe with you to be able to do that. And I think you do see that a lot with kids. Like, they hold it together at school. I had somebody recently tell me, they told me that he is so amazing at school. And I'm like, he comes home and he's a nightmare. And I think that's because a lot of times home is that safest place. They feel safe and they are holding it together all day long. And then they come home and they just get to let everything out and get all the irritating things out of the way at home, because then they got to go back out in the world and be on their best behavior. And I think in our marriage, it's the same way. This world can be brutal, and job pressures and all the different things that come at us in the world. We need to be able to have a safe space where we can come in and have a bad day,
Yeah.
and mess up without being just crucified for it.
Yeah. And then I think when your spouse does have a bad day or they do fail or do something, offer help instead of blame.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Come in with that magical question, how can I help?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What can I do to lighten your load? Instead of, well, I knew it. You always, you never, that kind of thing. So let's, in our time left, let's get real practical.
Okay.
And just we want to show you guys some practical ways to offer and show grace today, even if your spouse, isn't a part of it.
Mm-hmm. I think the first way is grace in your tone. It's the way you speak to each other. It's the grace you can say something without saying it rude. You can say the same thing in a loving manner, and it really, it sets the temperature for your house. It's that, a gentle answer turns away wrath. And, and this doesn't sound fair. I'll say this, but this doesn't sound fair, but, sometimes I think a man has to guard his tone even more carefully than the woman. I think that's why Scripture tells him tells the husband to live in, live with their wife in an understanding manner. And then he tells the dad to not exasperate the children, because I think words sometimes can come across more harsh from
I've seen it. I've seen it in our family. You could say something
rude,
or you can go off on them, and they're okay. They're phased. I don't want to say they ignore it, but they
kind of mostly ignore it.
But me, man, when I go off on them, they get fearful.
Yeah.
And I'm not a dad that's ever hit them or done anything like that.
But I do think it's the stature of a man is different than a stature of a woman. And that's why Scripture speaks and says that for a man to live in an understanding manner with the woman, because she's the weaker vessel, meaning she is more fragile, smaller physically. Typically in a relationship, the man's going to be more powerful physically, and that's more that shows a lot more. I mean, that's more to be fearful of. And so your tone.
And sometimes in that tone, we can have an edge or a spirit, which also sometimes sound mean or mad.
Yeah.
Like, why are you yelling? I'm not yelling. Wait a minute. Maybe I am. And so grace in your tone and our words. Grace in your assumptions.
That's a big one.
That is a big one. Colby, our 14-year-old, has a saying. I don't know if he heard it. I think he came up with it. Assumptions lead to dysfunctions.
That's so funny. And he's right.
It's right. He says it all the time, and I'm like, that's so funny.
Yeah.
But it is true that we assume the worst out of our spouse. We assume that our spouse intended to hurt us with things that they did.
But if I could give you the grace in assuming, okay, maybe that was not your intention.
Yeah.
That softens everything, knowing maybe he didn't mean to hurt me. I'm going to give you some grace in that to say, that came out wrong from him. I know he loves me. I know he made a covenant with me. I know he stood before God and everybody and said that he loves me more than anybody else in the world and chooses me. So I'm going to try to assume that he meant that and give you some grace in that.
Yeah, we a lot of times you get in an argument, and I'll hear people say something in the heat of battle.
Yeah. And
it wasn't kind, it wasn't mean, and then they'll go back and say, I didn't mean to say that. Well, you said it. And we hold them to that, right? That assumption of you meant it and you meant to hurt me. And why can't we assume in the peaceful time when they're trying to be repentant that's the proper assumption? But we don't. We hold them to the thing that's going to prove our point. So I think we have to have grace in those times.
And I think the third thing practically is that we need to have grace in our response. It's how we handle their failure. That really matters. Because sometimes someone already knows they've messed up and screwed up, and they're already beating themselves up, and then we jump on that and join in beating them up with our words or the way we pull back from them or respond to them. If we could show them some grace in that moment, man, love covers a multitude of sins. Is that I'm just you know, you're already hurt. You already did something that you wish you hadn't done, or said something you messed up in, and rather than me making you feel worse, I
Mm-hmm.
could be that loving balm that comes and soothes the wound that's already there,
Mm-hmm.
and try to give you some grace in it, going, you know what, I messed up too.
Yeah, and that knits a heart together. When
Mhm.
you're able to show grace in that moment, man, that really unites and reconnects a couple.
Mhm.
So, kind of recapping those: grace in your tone, in
Mhm.
the way you talk, and grace in your assumptions, and then grace in your response.
Mhm.
And so, all of that will help us to bear with one another
Mhm.
and put up with each other. And so, I mean, just imagine a marriage where your tone is gentle, your assumptions are kind, and responses are full of mercy. Imagine that and what impact that would have on children and
Yeah,
neighbors and people that you do life with.
it's a home you want to be in.
Yeah.
It's a place you want to return to. It's a soft place to land.
Yep. Grace builds safety, and safety builds connection, and connection keeps love alive.
Mhm.
So this week, choose one of those areas. Hopefully, as you've been listening, something has stuck out in your head, in your heart, tone, your assumptions, your response, and then where will you intentionally show grace? We're going to be praying that you can do that this week. Well, we want to thank you guys for connecting with us. And if you want to connect with us more, connect with us on social, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and especially YouTube. Go there and like and subscribe to that channel, and that'll keep this marriage coaching and this podcast in front of you every week. And don't hesitate to reach out. All right, take care.
We are all